irandoostfoundation.com. این برنامه برای ایجاد اتحاد و همبستگی بین هموطنان ایران دوست در سراسر جهان به ویژه ایران تقدیم به شما عزیزان می شود. This program is sponsored by irandoostfoundation.com.
درود فراوان به شما بینندگان محترم. دکتر جعفر شجره هستم در برنامه پارس تیوی. امروز برای شما خبرهای مختلفی داریم. خب اول اینکه مصاحبه داریم با کاندیدای کنگره آمریکا آقای سکات با که در مقابل خانم کیتی پورتر کانگرسومن دارن ران میکنن و در اورنج کانتی دیستریکت 47 کالیفرنیا دیستریکت 47 که هانینگتون بیچ، سیل بیچ، لگونا بیچ، کوستا میسا، ایرواین و نیوپورت بیچ هست. ایشون در مقابل خانم کیتی پورتر دارن ران میکنن، سکند اپ کندیدیت هستن. خیلی ریس کلوزی هست، نزدیکی هست. یکی از دلایلی که ما اینو انقدر داریم به شدت دنبال میکنیم اینه که خب هر دوتا با ایرانیان امریکن کامیونیتی خیلی نزدیک هستن، هر دوتا رقیب. اما طبق تاریخی که نشون داده دموکرات ها و بعضی از ریپابلیکن ها، ولی بیشتر از دموکرات ها اصلا حاضر نیستن صدای مردم ایران رو بشنون. فقط دنبال دیپلماسی و دموکراسی هستن که این یک روشی که جمهوری اسلامی ایران سالهاست در آمریکا پی گرفته و یک پراکسی داره یا یک دنبی داره در اصل که زیر بال این بنیاد داره حرفای خوش در کنگره آمریکا به کرسی میشونه تا یه حدودی که اینطور که ما جستجو کردیم و تحقیق کردیم و خود من شخصا از سال 2004 و 2005 با این قضیه روبرو شدم، نایک هست، National Iranian American Council هست که نشون داده که فقط و فقط دیپلماسی و دموکراسی و مینیمال اینوالومنت از آمریکا درباره مسائل ایران و برداشتن سانکشن هایی که گذاشته شده روی ایران برای اینکه خب من نمیدونم این زد و نقیض برای چی هست. همه میدونیم که جمهوری اسلامی دیگه همکنون خودش رو واقعا نشون داد که یک دیکتاتورشیپ هست و اسلام رو استفاده میکنه برای سرکوب کردن عقیده های مردم و دیدید با نشون دادن این اعمال بد، این همه سرکوبی های بد، کشتار، قتل و جنایتی که انجام داد، دیگه نمیتونه بگه این دولت تروریستی نیست. یکی که مردم خودش رو ترور میکنه نمیتونه بگه که تظاهرگران تروریست هستن. در این صورت نمیشه این رژیم رو حمایت کرد، هیچ نوعی نمیشه گفت باشون صحبت کرد، هیچ نوعی نباید باشون ساخت. فقط یه چیز، اونم سرنگونی رژیم و جدا کردن دین از دولت و آزادی کامل برای ایرانیان ما در ایران. ما در خارج از کشور همکنون باید فقط فکرمون به یه چیز باشه، یادمون باشه امکان داره بعضی از این کاندیداها بعضی از چیزهایی که عقیده دارن مد نظر شما نباشه، ولی هدف ما از مصاحبه امروز چیه؟ هدف ما از کمک به کانگرسمن ها و سناتورهایی که حرف ما رو ایرانی‌ها رو از ایران میشنون، صدای شما رو میشنون چیه؟ اینا باید بشینن سر کار تا اگر کاری بخواد اتفاق بیفته در جهان، کانگرسمن‌ها و سناتورهایی که با ما هستن، با ما یک صدا هستن، نشسته باشن تو کنگره، تو هاوس آف رپرزنتیتیو، تو سنای آمریکا، که وقتی یه لایحه‌ای رد میشه یا میاد روی میزشون، مثل مهسا امینی اکت، باهاش موافقت کنن، سانکشن‌های بیشتری بذارن که بتونیم فشار بیشتری بذاریم به این رژیم. و درخواستی خود مردم از ایران دارن: زن، زندگی، آزادی، مرد، میهن، آبادی، مرگ بر جمهوری اسلامی، down with the dictator. اینا همه یعنی چی؟ این شعارها یعنی چی؟ این شعارها را خود مردم از خود ایران تو خیابونها، کف زمین خیابونها اینا دارن میرن، جون خودشون میذارن در مقابل گوله و جان خود دست میدن برای آزادی ما. در این صورت کسایی باید برن بشینن سر کار که بتونن این هدف رو کمک کنن. حالا بعضیا امکان داره تو بعضی از مسائل امکان داره با شما هم عقیده نباشن، اما ما وقت کمی داریم. توی این 2 سال آینده، الان مید ترم الکشن هست، 2 سال آینده بعد ما هدفمون این باشه که امیدوارم در 2 ماه آینده رژیم برداشته بشه. این یه مبارزه‌ای که آخرش به پیروزی خواهد رسید، فقط میتونه طولانی مدت باشه. در این صورت ما باید هدفمون انتخاب کردن کاندیداهایی باشه که بتونن صدای مردم ایرانو به ادمنستریشن آمریکا برسونن. در این صورت با این طرز فکر ما وارد این اینترویو میشیم. ما میخوایم بیشتر این کاندیدا رو بشناسیم که وقتی سه‌شنبه دیگه موقع رأی دادن شد، شما دقیقاً بدونید به اسکات با رأی بدید. برای چی؟ برای اینکه صدای مردم ایران هست، برای اینکه به ما قول داده که هر وقت در کنگره اکتی، لوحه‌ای، قانونی بخواد رد بشه، کمک میکنه، رأی میده و برای منفعت مردم ایران، نه برای دموکراسی، دیپلماسی و ساخت و باخت با رژیم خونخوار جمهوری اسلامی. با هم بریم کامرشال، برمیگردیم. این اینترویو رو با ما باشید. Hello, I'm Dr. Jeff Shad. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Scott Baugh, candidate for U.S. Congress. Pleasure to have you here, Mr. Baugh.
Great to be with you, Dr. Shad.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk about you running for Congress against Katie Porter, and a lot of our Iranian Americans want to know background about you. Tell us a little bit about who Scott Baugh is and what's your passion?
Okay, well, that's I love that question because I get to talk about my family, and family's the most important thing to me. I grew up with 4 brothers on a farm in Northern California. We didn't have much money. We would go out and pick fruit and sell it on the side of the road to get money for our school clothes. But we grew up in a rugged place, Redding, California, Anderson, California. Went to a private grammar school and then went on to a public high school. Went on to community college and then graduated from Liberty University in 1984. Came back to California, went to law school, and I was practicing law until, when I ran for a state assembly back in 1995. And I was in the state legislature for 3 terms, 3 2-year terms in the state legislature. I was the Republican leader in the legislature, and so I led campaigns and I led policy agendas. And then I was termed out of office and I came back to private practice. And then I became chair of the party here in Orange County, I was chair for 11 years, and I've been involved in probably, I don't even want to count, there's like hundreds, if not 1,000 of elections. So I understand the process really well. And then I thought I was not going to run anymore, and the lines got all redrawn, and the incumbent that I was supporting, Michelle Steele, she decided to run in an adjacent district and left this district open. And Katie Porter was now the incumbent in this district, and her policies I just think are too far left for the coast of Orange County, and so I decided to run against her.
There's a lot of controversial issue going on with Katie Porter. I'm going to go right to it. She's been sponsored and endorsed by a nonprofit organization out of Washington called NIAC, National Iranian American Council. Their philosophy is diplomacy and democracy for Iran and lifting the sanctions. So basically, in a way, they are, in my opinion, and a lot of Iranian Americans, they're proxy of regime. So in a way, they're working with the Iranian regime, and we don't want that. None of the Iranian Americans, at least at this moment, in this environment, especially as you said in your message to all the Iranian Americans, since Mahsa Amini's death is even become more evident.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you think about someone with that character? I mean, running again for Congress as a congresswoman. Obviously, she doesn't have our interests, but she pretends she does. So
yeah, well, that's pretty common with some politicians. But let's be clear: NIAC is a mouthpiece for the regime. They're an emissary for the regime there, and the bottom line is, I would never take their endorsement, and nor would I take a dime from them. They are advocating propaganda that the regime wants the United States government to hear, and it's contrary to the people of Iran.
When I saw you at the protest just a few days ago, what was your feeling being among all those Iranian Americans who so passionately, I mean, we're all crying every day about what's happening in Iran, myself being one of them. I can't stop the tears from coming because of all the brutal activities, all the suppressing, I mean, they're basically murdering people shouting for their freedom. What was your feeling being there on the stage?
I have to tell you, Dr. Shad, that was a beautiful moment in time. It reminded me a lot of our own founding. I mean, a lot of our heritage in this country is we had people fight and die for their freedom, and they had the courage to fight for their freedom. And we eventually prevailed against our oppressors and became a free nation. And I just saw all of the desire in the hearts and the chants and the eyes of all the people that are there, thousands of people there, saying, we want to be free too. And that's when I said, you know, through the heart of every human being is a desire for freedom. It doesn't make a difference where you're born. And the people of Iran, they want that freedom too. Yes. And the regime doesn't want them to have that freedom. And so I just saw a beautiful protest of people wanting to be free, and that's the natural state that they should be in.
I'm glad that we share a lot in common. Iranian Americans are tired of this regime. And today, just today, over at United Nations, there was ARIA act going on. There's talking about the human rights of all the females, and they give the podium to the Iranian representative, and he's saying that U.S. is actually not respecting human rights by putting sanction on Iran, and not by putting pressure on Iran. So United States was the first one that that basically broke the human rights. So what do you think about this nonsense that these guys, I mean, it just goes above my head.
Well, you phrased the question well. It's nonsense. It's propaganda. There's no way you could basically destroy the human rights of the people of Iran and then blame the United States for doing that. Yeah, the regime is doing this. They need to be held accountable. And part of sanctions, part of the process of sanctions is holding them accountable, putting pressure, economic pressure on them so that they will reform their behavior so that the people of Iran can be free.
Katie Porter has been out there and trying to ruin your reputation. We know, and she's gone far and beyond negative ads. And Iranian Americans want to know a bit about your background and what did really happen. What's truth behind this allegation? What is
You're
it?
talking about her commercials saying
Commercials,
of
yes.
charges?
Yes, the
Yeah.
charges that she's talking about, and some people
Yeah.
are asking about it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I will tell you about that. But first of all, I want to tell you that people who engage in smear campaigns are doing it because they're losing. And the more we tell the truth about her, the less people care about the lies she says about me. But 26 years ago, when I ran my first campaign, I had a brand new treasurer who had never done a campaign before. He messed up the books. And the DA came in and they looked at it and they decided to charge me criminally with what was wrong in the books. Well, eventually it came out that the treasurer had lied. He had perjured himself to the grand jury, and the judge in the case looked at it all, and he chastised the district attorney. This is the government. He chastised them and said, listen, what you've done by presenting perjured testimony to a grand jury in order to indict Scott is very, very, very grave misconduct. And all of the charges were dismissed because they cheated. It's no different than the government of Iran when they would come and prosecute somebody. They make up the evidence. They do what they want to achieve their political agenda. Well, in this case, the government got caught, we exposed them, and everything was dismissed.
glad to hear it from you. And this is amazing because they just try to throw those negative ads. I want to bring the people's attention to this. Right now, we need people in Congress who could hear Iranian people's voices. And I know, obviously, you have a lot other issues in hand, as you said in your meeting with Iranian Americans.
Yes.
You know, the inflation, everything that's going on in your community, in your district. But at times, there's going to be acts like Mahsa Amini Act or other sanctions that needs to be put on this government.
Yes.
Hopefully, the government is gone before you even make it to the office. That's our hope.
Yeah.
But it's a long run, and I believe it's going to be victory at the end. But what is your message to Iranian people who are going to elect you? When you are in Congress, can you be our voice? What can you do when you see these types of sanctions or acts running by your desk?
Well, so first of all, I would tell all the Iranian people that my first and foremost job is to represent this district and to make sure that freedom prevails in the United States of America. Because if tyranny shows up in America, it's harder for us to help other people in other parts of the world. But with that said, after we make sure that that is preserved here, I am a very compassionate fellow. I like to listen to people's concerns. I like to help solve their problems. So I can be a voice for them here in Orange County and a voice for them in Washington. And what does a voice mean? What does it mean to be a voice? It means to stand up and listen, first of all, to make sure you understand what the concerns are, and then also to be a voice that condemns oppression and tyranny when you see it. So I would love to do that for the Iranian people, and that's what I do for all people as well.
A couple other topics have come up. Just wanted to bring it up to your attention. Women's right. I know you're pro-life, and can you touch up on some of these issues that are important to you, important to us as Iranian Americans, as Americans?
Sure, as all Americans, this is an issue where, like many issues, where people have differences of opinion. I'm a pro-life person, and yet we saw with the Supreme Court in the Dodd decision, they ruled that it's not part of our original Constitution. In fact, in the 10th Amendment of our Constitution, it says if it's not in the Constitution, it's reserved to the states. And that's effectively what the Dobbs decision did. It reserved the issue of abortion to the states. And in California, they have pretty liberal laws on abortion. And so that's where it stands today.
Now, how about this? Our Second Amendment rights. Let's touch up that
Well,
issue.
sure. With Second Amendment rights, that is in the Constitution.
Right.
And so that is a federal issue. And so we do have jurisdiction there. And you know, folks that want to remove all guns is not a solution, because think about it. If you eliminated all guns, you're just taking constitutional rights from law-abiding citizens. The criminals will still have guns. What we need to make sure of is that the criminals don't have guns. We need to make sure people with mental illness don't have guns. And so we need to look at red flag laws. And in fact, if you look at all the tragedies that we've had in this country, And there are some serious tragedies about
Yes,
about gun violence. If you look at every one of those cases, there were flags going up all over. We just need to be more diligent in seeing those flags and making sure our laws are structured so that law enforcement is able to go in and make sure that people that are suffering from mental illness or suffering from some kind of delusion or have a criminal background do not have access to guns at all.
Thank you for that answer. What area you think Katie Porter has been failing, and what is your 10-point plan to correct her failures? If I'm assuming you're running against her, that she has.
Well, I am, and I could probably sit here and think of 10 points, but I don't have it as a plan. But let me tell you as a broad
Yes.
picture here. Katie Porter believes the federal government should be all powerful in our lives. She believes the federal government should participate in every corner of our life. And that's not how our government is set up. Our government was set up to give the federal government some powers, like international affairs and border security, things like that. And everything else is supposed to be left to the state. But Katie Porter wants to be involved in health care. She wants to be involved in child care. I mean, what does the federal government need to be involved in child care for at all? So her view of government is that they should be involved in every area of our lives. And guess what? That's really expensive. And that's why she's voted on $22 trillion in spending. And she wanted more spending. That's all she could vote on. She wrote a letter to President Biden, encouraged him to spend more because she thinks that government spending doesn't cause inflation and government debt doesn't have a downward pressure on economic growth. Well, that's just silly. It does. Every economist will tell you that. And so what I plan to do there is to make sure we don't spend beyond our means. We need to live within our means. We need to have, like we do at home, we need to have balanced budgets. And we have $31 trillion in debt. Guess what happens if that debt gets too much bigger and it puts too much downward pressure? You have a recession. It harms the ability of the United States to help other countries. And so that's just one area. Then crime is yet another area. We need to secure our borders. I mean, what's a country without a secure border? We have fentanyl coming across the border that's killing our children in the streets. It's laced to look like candy. And so we have people that don't even intend to use fentanyl that are dying from it. And then, of course, she wants to defund the police. Think about that for our communities. That's bringing crime to a neighborhood near you if you defund the police. She's very critical of our police. She calls them a disgrace just for doing their job. And so we need safe and secure communities. We need safe and secure borders. And we need to live within our means. She has failed us in all of those regards.
She claims that she invited President Biden to IVC to come and support Iranian American. I mean, what's your opinion about that? She claims that she asked him to come to support Iranian American, and you heard what President Biden said, and he actually said, "For real, though, for real." I mean, it almost sounds like he lied about it, but.
Well, I think her claims to bring him here to support the Iranian Americans is just propaganda. It's no different than the conduct of NIAC. They issue propaganda to tell the people what they want to hear, and then they go do things behind closed doors that are contrary to the interest of the people. I just think it's all nonsense. It's a lie. It's deceptive. And her whole campaign is based on that. That's why she tries to smear me. She can't stand up for the issues. She won't talk about inflation. She won't talk about fuel prices. Why? Because their policies created this problem. They have nothing else to say about it.
What does Scott Baugh wishes for the Iranian American, for the Americans while you're in Congress? What's the last word that you want to say in this interview?
Well, we can't solve every problem all at once, but I hope that we can make progress towards freedom, for all people to be free. For the Iranian people here, we will hear their voice, we will hear their concerns, we will speak for them, and for the people fighting on the streets of Iran, may they be free. May they continue to have the courage to fight, even in the midst of real danger, real oppression from their government and the regime. May they continue on so that they can be free, their children can be free, and they can enjoy human flourishing and prosperity, much like we do here in the United States of America.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to sit with you and get to know Scott.
Thank you, Dr. Shad.
I appreciate it. Pleasure here. مصاحبه منو با آقای اسکات باک دیدید. واقعا یک کاندیدیت جنوین، دوست داشتنی و مهربون و مردمی. دیدید که خودش از سوی روستا بزرگ شده، در فارم بزرگ شده، یعنی سخت کار کرده که به اینجا رسیده و دردهای مردم رو حس میکنه. الان موقع این که دموکرات هم ریپابلیکن هم نیست، الان موقع اینه که کسی رو ما انتخاب کنیم که برای ایرانیان در ایران دلش میسوزه. ما الان باید تا اونجا که میتونیم، این میدترمه، از این موقعیت بهتر نمیشه. مردم ما احتیاج به کمک ما دارن. اگه شما ایران دوست دارید، اگه شما مردمتون دوست دارید، که میدونم دوست دارید، از ته دلم دوست دارید، نشون دادید تو این 45 روز گذشته که از جون و دل برای ایران دارید میذارید. خیلیا مثل خود من 45 روز پارت تایم هم نه، 1/8 کار کردن. 7/8 از زندگیمون رو دیم برای ایران، برای فکرمون، ذکرمون، همش اینه که چطوری کمک کنیم. ما چی کار میتونیم بکنیم؟ تنها کاری که میتونیم بکنیم برای اولین بار نشون بدیم که کسایی میخوایم ساپورت بکنیم که با مردم ایران هستن. دموکراتیک پارتی با نایک برای همین فقط دموکرات‌ها رو انتخاب میکنه. اگه نگاه کنید تمام کانگرسمن‌ها، سناتورها، حتی پرزیدنت آمریکا رو اندورس کرده. نایکی که فقط فکرش دیپلماسی و نگوشیشن با جمهوری اسلامیه. یعنی چی؟ یعنی اکستنشن جمهوری اسلامیه، یعنی یک پروپاگاندای جمهوری اسلامیه. باور کنید 18 سال دارم من میگم. خواهش میکنم کسایی که تو ایرواین زندگی میکنید، کسایی که تو نیوپورت بیچ زندگی میکنید، کسایی که تو هانینگتون بیچ زندگی میکنید، کسایی که تو کوستا میسا، کسایی که تو لگونا بیچ و سیل بیچ هستید، به اسکات رای بدید. قول داد به ما، نه نایک رو دفاع میکنه، ما رو دفاع میکنه تو کانگره. هر قانونی بخواد رد بشه که بیشتر فشار بذاره جمهوری اسلامی که بتونیم جمهوری اسلامی رو سرنگون بکنیم، کمک میکنه. دموکرات‌ها کیدی پورتر این کار رو نخواهد کرد. دوباره انتخابش نکنیم. هر کجایی که هستید به کسایی رأی بدید که منفعت ایرانیان تو داخل کشور باشن. یعنی چی؟ یعنی صدای اونا در خارج از کشور باشن. یعنی چی؟ یعنی تو کنگره آمریکا بتونن حرف دل مردم ایران رو بزنن. تنها کاری که ما میتونیم در آمریکا بکنیم، در حال حاضر بکنیم، اینه که کسایی رأی بدیم که منفعت مردم ما رو میخوان. این انتخابات خیلی کوچیک نزدیک به هم. فکر کنید 500 تا 1000 نفر اگر به اسکات رای بدن تو ایرواین میتونه برنده بشه و یک پیروزی بر علیه، ایندایرکتلی بر علیه نایک و جمهوری اسلامی. اینجوری فکر کنید درباره‌اش. ضربه ایه که ما زدیم به فکشون در آمریکا. یادتون نره این یه جنگه که 4 روز دیگه باید ما این جنگو اولین بردمون تو این انتخابات میدترم باشه. هر کجا که هستید به ریپابلیکن ها رای بدید، به کسایی که منفعت ایران میخواین. من میدونم اسکات میخواد، باهاش صحبت کردم، الان 2 هفته است که دارم همینطور بک اند فورت باهاش صحبت میکنم. باور کنید من قول میدم بالا سر این هستم، نمیذارم هیچ اتفاقی بیفته. فقط قول به من بدید میرید رای میدید برای کسی که هدفش منفعت مردم ایرانه و من میدونم اسکات هست. امیدوارم از برنامه امروز خوشتون اومده باشه. هر کجای دنیا هستید طبق معمول سعی سالم باشید و دوباره تسلیت میگم به یکایی که جان باختگان و خانواده شهدای آزادی ایران. زن، زندگی، آزادی، مرد، میهن، آبادی. زنده باد ایران. تا برنامه بعدی خدا نگهدار. ما پشت شما هستیم تا روز پیروزی.
irandoostfoundation.com این برنامه برای ایجاد اتحاد و همبستگی بین هموطنان ایران دوست در سراسر جهان، به ویژه ایران، تقدیم به شما عزیزان می شود. This program is sponsored by IranDoostFoundation.com.